Hello and welcome back to BS Rugby. And the Six Nations is just a few days away and the excitement is certainly building. Welcome to part 2 of our 6-part series as we take a look and a deep dive at each nation in the Six Nations. We, of course, yesterday had England, but today we are focusing on Scotland. If you do go on to enjoy this, make sure to hit the subscribe button and leave a like and get your predictions for how you think the Scots going to do this year. I was joined by Dan from the fantastic Facebook group Stuck in the Scrum. As always, make sure to check them out. Link in the description down below. If you'd like to listen to the audio version of this, you can do that. There's a link down below which will take you to the Breakdown podcast, and each of the episodes of this series will be released there before the video. So if you want to listen to it before it comes out on video, you can do there. Without further ado, though, let's get into it. So let's start with last year's Six Nations finishing fourth, but that doesn't really tell the tale of last year's Six Nations. As I said to you just before we started to record, there was only 1 point between Scotland in fourth and France in second. And there were some really good results along the way. I mean, beating England at Twickenham for the first time in 20-odd years, beating France away in Paris in the last minute of the game, and also hammering Italy as well. Looking back at that Six Nations, do you see that Six Nations having been a positive time, or do you think there was a missed opportunity maybe?
Yes and no. I mean, Scotland fans will definitely see that one as the Six Nations that got away from them. I mean, we lost 2 games going into it. We lost to Wales by a point, and we lost to Ireland by 3 points. Now, I mean, going back on the 2 games we lost, I think we should have beaten Wales. We were, I think, if memory serves me correct, we were like 17 or 20 to 3 up at one stage, and we essentially threw it away. Wales had a great comeback. We got a man sent off. You can't be that far ahead and lose a game. Ireland, I think the scoreline's probably the opposite, probably slightly flattered us. We did only lose by 3 points, but I think Ireland were the better side on that day. England, I mean, I know what was 11-6 in the end, but if you watched the game, that it wasn't reflective of the game. Scotland were completely dominant against England that game. So yeah, I think we'll see that as the one that got away from us. But no, if we think positive where we came, it's that on paper it's the best ever Six Nations, and we only finished fourth. But we were arguably a penalty kick away from winning it. Yeah. I'd have to look at the table again, but I think if we hadn't lost that game to Wales, Scotland would have won the Six Nations that year.
Yeah, you would have, because obviously we beat you. We finished on 20, Wales. France were on, I want to say 18, and then Scotland were on 17 or something like that. So it was a really, really close competition. And really, there were probably 4 teams that felt like they could have probably won the Six Nations last year. And I think we're going to see something similar this year. And then obviously we had the Autumn Nations series this autumn. Scotland played 4 games, beating Tonga 60 points to 14. Obviously a very weakened Tonga side, beating Australia 15 points to 13, losing against South Africa 15 points to 30, and then beating Japan by 29 points to 20. I felt, for me personally, with that one, that the result against Australia was one where you had to dig deep, to fight, you had to kind of grind through the game to get there. And then South Africa, for me, felt like, to no disrespect to Scotland, but you could see the gulf in class. You could see the gap. You could see that South Africa were this world-class side and Scotland were just on that level below. I don't know how you would have assessed the autumn as a whole. Did you feel there was progress, or, again, maybe a missed opportunity?
Personally, I never looked too far into the autumn. I mean, going into it, look, we got 3 out of 4, which is really, really good. But I think Tom English put it best. The Autumn Internationals is peacetime rugby. The form very, very rarely translates into competitions, whether it be the World Cup or the Six Nations. There's a lot of experimenting. There's not the same amount on the line. The same intensity isn't there. For Scotland's tactics going into it, I mean, with the Tonga game, Tonga were forced to play a far weakened side. I mean, the gulf between Tonga and Scotland is already big enough as it is. In Tonga, we're playing with one hand tied behind their back. So it was a training match. I think it was really more done to get Tonga a payday more than anything. With the Australia game, that could have went either way. He clearly experimented in the Japan game, and also we were well beaten by South Africa. But my frustration personally with these games was I felt like that Scotland tried to play to South Africa's game plan or Australia's game plan, especially in the big games, instead of playing to their own. Was my takeaway. You see these big teams go, South Africa, the All Blacks, when they go about, and even England, they don't really adapt their game plan much to suit these other teams. They go, no, we know what works, we know what we play. These teams are going to have to adapt to us. And I think Scotland need to have more faith in their own game plan instead of trying to play a game that doesn't suit them just because they think it might counter the opposition.
Yeah, I agree. I think you have to believe in your philosophy, the way that you want to play. I was speaking to an England fan beforehand and speaking about how will England look to attack this Scotland team. We'll go through the fixtures in a little bit, but how are England going to attack the Scotland team? Are they going to look to be brutal, to be physical, try and dominate that way, or are they going to look to spread the ball about, which maybe plays into the hands of Scotland that little bit? But I think that comes with the maturity of a squad as develops, as it grows, as they really begin to understand how the system works and each role in it. I think that will slowly begin to come together. And let's have a look at the squad. There are some big name absentees in there, which we'll get into. I'll put it up on the screen. We're not going to go through each name.
Okay.
But, obviously, of course, Stuart Hogg is captain. He's been captain now for over a year. But there are some players coming back. Cameron Redpath is back after a long time out with injury. We have also got Ben Vellacott in there from Edinburgh, who's been absolutely insane in the URC this season. And there will be new caps to Andy Christie from Sarries, Kyle Rowe from London Irish, and Rory Darge from the Glasgow Warriors. Looking at that squad, Dan, what do you make of that squad? Are you fairly happy with it, or what are you thinking?
Well, it's a Townsend squad. That's all I'm going to say. Every single Six Nations, every squad announcement, there's always at least one or two players in there that he's gone there to surprise you. I think Townsend's still doing a little bit of shopping. I mean, obviously, Andy Christie, wasn't expecting to see him in there. He wasn't even on my radar for someone that can be legible to play for Scotland. So, I mean, there's some other people that I'm really happy to see, like Rory Darge. We never got to see him in the autumn. He's been on fantastic form at the moment. He seems to have come out of nowhere. I think he'll get a couple of games in the Six Nations. Magnus Bradbury, he's just turned it on, and he is looking like a world class. He's tearing apart the URC at the moment, and he's in a huge amount of momentum, and I hope he can carry that over. And we still have some of our big name players, your Duhan van der Merwe, Stuart Hogg, Ali Price, Pierre Schumann, Xander Fagerson, Johnny Gray. There's a lot of big names in there. The one I don't get is Hastings. That I think Hastings and Ollie Kebble were the two that shocked me. I think I'll go into Kebble first. I'll leave the big one to the end. But Scotland have so much depth now in every single position, apart from tighthead. And I mean, after Xander, they don't have much underneath there. Ollie Kebble, I know he does usually play in the loose, but he can play tighthead. Why he isn't in there, I've no idea. Who's the Scarlets boy? I can't even Sebastian. I don't think he even gets a starting game for the Scarlets half the time.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. No.
I see WP Nell in there, and he's not going to be part of the World Cup squad. And I can only guess he's there for experience. He's rather to show the boys in the camp, or he's just going to be the bench option to be brought on, after 50, 60 minutes and Xander starts to tire. And he has that experience to see up games, so I'm really disappointed in that.
Before we jump on to the Adam Hastings bit, obviously I just quickly did some research beforehand about what Townsend had said about the reasons behind it. I thought I'd read it to you and get your thoughts on it, because it's quite interesting on what he had to say. This is what he said when the squad was announced. And in terms of where we are, we believe we have a really strong squad. Competition for places has been excellent, and we have a lot of players who are fit. With the players we have and the experience of this group has gone through, this is a big opportunity for us. He then said on Redpath coming back, he said Redpath managed to get a game under his belt prior to the squad selection, so we'll see how he performs for Bath in our training over the next couple of weeks. And then on Hastings said, Adam is unlucky. He just missed out. At the moment, we feel Blair Kinghorn and Finn are playing better. Now, I know there's a lot of talk about Kinghorn playing at 10. A lot of people not sold on it, but Edinburgh have been doing really well this season with Kinghorn playing at 10. The Argentinian Buffelli is playing at fullback. I think Buffelli, yeah. What's your thoughts on Adam Hastings? Because I was really surprised to see that.
I've had two thoughts on this. He's playing some sort of mind game, because we all know that Gregor Townsend loves a mind game, and he'll bring him into the squad a couple of days before the England game. There's something personal going on underneath the radar that we don't know, and I'd like to say that Gregor's calm and above it, but we've seen he exiled Finn Russell from the squad before. There's no reason he can't do it for Hastings. I mean, Hastings has been on fire down in the English Premiership. I know he got off to a rocky start for his first game or two, but ever since then, he's been on fire for them. He's been pivotal to Gloucester's season, and Gloucester are the third, fourth in the Premiership at the moment. They're doing really, really well. My biggest fear is, all right, let me paint an image in your head. You're 5 minutes into the England game. Tom Curry smashes Finn Russell, and he goes off injured. You then have Blair Kinghorn to play the next 75 minutes at 10. Don't get me wrong, Kinghorn is a hugely talented player. I don't think Cockrell got the best out of him in Edinburgh. It looks like Cockrell didn't get the best out of a lot of people at Edinburgh. And it seems, from what I've heard in the Scottish rugby circles, that Blair Kinghorn seems to be this extremely talented footballer that can, whatever he puts his mind to, it just comes natural to him. And I can only go by what I've heard and what I've seen. Now, he has been playing very well in the URC, but with no disrespect to the teams he's come up against, Edinburgh haven't played any of the big guns in the URC yet. They've been playing almost like the cannon fodder of the URC most of the time. They've been Zebre, Benetton, a lot of, just your really bottom-end teams. And he's not really been tested against anyone big. The only big name that Edinburgh did get tested against really has been the Saracens, and he didn't play at 10 that game. So I don't know. I suspect Kinghorn to be in the squad. He's come on massively, and he's a great utility player. You can play in the wing, you can play 10, you can play fullback. I mean, he can even chop in at centre if need be. But by that same argument, so can Hastings. And Hastings has proven himself at a higher level than Kinghorn. Going forward into this, I mean, I was thinking, after I saw his form down at Gloucester, maybe Hastings will give Finn a run for his money. It shows what I know, right?
Yeah. The interesting thing with Kinghorn is I've always thought, as you said, he's a talented player. When he broke through, there was a lot of chatter about him. Was he going to play wing? Was he going to play fullback? I don't think it was ever really in the conversation that he would be stepping into the 10 jersey anytime soon. And Edinburgh have been fantastic in the URC this season. They've played some brilliant rugby under Mike Blair. We'll get on to a few of their other players, I'm sure, soon. But, is he really the answer at 10? I'm not sold on him at all. Again, I don't think he has the control that someone like a Hastings would of a game. And I think that's something you can even say about Finn Russell over the past I would say, year and a half. This title of he's a maverick, yes, it's true. But I feel like his control and his understanding of when to do things has improved massively. So I'm not sure if Kinghorn is the right man for that.
Well, Kinghorn, I think the way he plays 10 is the complete opposite to the way that Finn Russell goes. Finn Russell's game, he's a better passer, he's a better kicker, his game management is unreal. But for all the natural ability, to remember, Kinghorn's 6'4", lean, full of muscle. I mean, he's a lot stronger than he looks. He's a strong boy. He's fast. He's a running 10, which is probably the one area of the game that Finn Russell isn't. I mean, he's great at intercept, but he's not as not nearly as quick as what Kinghorn is. Not nearly as strong. So, I mean, I can see Kinghorn coming on in the last 10, 15 minutes to, run at a tired defense, especially if they need that other try, or if a team's, on top of Finn and they've worked out his gameplay, because it's so different. I think that's probably why they've picked them. And Scotland probably have arguably one of the best backlines, or maybe even the best backline in the entire competition. I mean, I run through their backs. They probably start Price, Russell, Van der Merwe, you rather have Redpath or Sione, Chris Harris, Darcy Graham, Stuart Hogg. And depending on what game style you go, their backline is strong enough to swap it just like that and change the game completely. So I always knew Kinghorn was going to be in it. I always suspected he'd be on the bench every match day because he does give that option just with his versatility. But I didn't expect Hastings to be dropped.
Yeah, it was quite a surprise for me as well, but we'll see how he gets on. One other name I really wanted to mention was Ben Velikot. We spoke, I'm pretty sure, before the autumn, saying that we think he should be in the squad. I mean, he's had an incredible start to the URC. I remember his first game against Scarlets. He was just everywhere, causing so many issues. He's an exciting option off the bench, isn't he? Ali Price, maybe not as sniping, as attack-minded as a Velikot. Velikot will see the option to tap and go, and he will go, won't he? He's an exciting player.
But it's his running game. He's so fast. He's so quick. He likes to pick and go a lot. I don't think his box kicking or his game management is as good as Ali Price's, but he does have that bit of flair. He brings that tempo. I think his Ali Price has gotten older and he's gotten wiser. His tempo's come down slightly. Not that it's low or anything. I mean, to play it in a Townsend side, you have to be high tempo. And the very second that I saw him play his first game for Edinburgh, I was like, the first thought that came to my head, that's Townsend. He's a Townsend scrum half. He's his type of player. He loves fast, quick, snipey players, and you could tell immediately that's why he'd been brought up from Wasps. It wasn't like, oh, he's a filler that was going to still try Wingland. Like, after seeing his first game, you knew why he was there. That's all. I can't wait to see him in. I think he'll definitely get a couple of games. I think, obviously, once Scotland's seen out a game and they want to try rest some of their better players, I can see, I think Velikot will get the Italy game. I think he'll start the Italy game. He'll probably come on after, 50, 60 minutes, most other games for Price as well. I was quite surprised that both the George Horn and Jamie Doby didn't get picked.
Yeah.
I'm starting to think that George Horn's time with Scotland is done. If he wants another chance at playing for Scotland ever, I think he needs to leave Glasgow and maybe go down to England or go over to France, because he's not in their sights anymore.
Let's have a look at the fixtures, because I think that the balance of which games you have is quite interesting. First of all, Calcutta Cup at Murrayfield, tea time kickoff. It's going to be an interesting one because last year, obviously, Scotland went away to Twickenham, won. The scoreline really doesn't reflect the performance. Scotland was so dominant in that one. How do you expect Scotland to go with this? Because you spoke about in the autumn, maybe they didn't stick to their identity to the way they want to play. Again, it seems like England are trying to adapt the way they're playing, trying to be a bit more attack-minded with the likes of Marcus Smith playing at 10. How do you expect Scotland to go this one? Do you think they're going to look to be on the front foot to kick it off straight away?
Definitely. I think England in a lot of sports, they always underestimate Scotland. I mean, every football match, it's, oh, we're going to do them 5-6-0. Every rugby match, it's like, oh, we're going to put 30-40 on Scotland. And they very rarely do, if ever. I think they had that 1 year back in 2014, I think it was, where they really hammered us. But the gap between the two sides isn't there anymore. I mean, England have only beaten Scotland once in the last 4 encounters. And I think probably for the last 5-6 years, every single Calcutta Cup game, I've got into it thinking England are going to win it and hoping that Scotland might just be able to nick it. But this year is probably the first time first time ever that I go into it thinking, we should win this. I know it might rub some people up the wrong way, but and they're not the bookies' favourite. They're not a lot of people's favourite, but we've been beating them a lot recently. We're at home. We've got a good start. I think that our squad is really, really strong. England have got a lot of injuries. I think they're more gelled together as a unit as well. I think that, their backs are more skillful. Arguably, depending on who they pick, we may have the heavier forwards as well. There are some players that worry me a little bit. Obviously, Sam Simmonds, I watched him play in an extras defeat against Montpellier at the weekend. And what was the stat I saw? He did. You might have to double check this, but did I read that he scored 75 tries in 100 appearances?
Yeah.
Like I saw that. Yeah.
From number 8.
And I think that can't be right. But yeah, so he hugely dangerous. Marcus Smith is obviously on form.
Yeah.
I don't think he's peaked yet. England might find out that they like to put the label on Finn Russell of being a maverick. I think Marcus Smith now is what Finn Russell was 3 or 4 years ago. They're the same type of player. They're on the same sort of track, same sort of trajectory. Obviously, Finn Russell's a little bit further on in his career than Smith is. There are some differences, but they're very, very similar players. I think Farrell's injury for England may be a blessing in disguise. I think England have better options than Farrell. I know he brings an intensity to the training camp, which might have been one of the main reasons he was there.
No, I agree. I think Scotland have really developed, have really grown. They're now at a point where, to be honest, I think any of Wales, France, maybe put Wales in there, but Wales, France, Ireland, England, and Scotland. Is that everyone?
Yeah, it's a 5-way race.
Yeah, 5 teams. One of those 5 teams could potentially go and win this competition. Obviously, Italy, probably not. Next game then is you head over to the Principality to face Wales. That is the following weekend. That's a 2:15 kickoff. Again, it's going to be an interesting game, that one, because Wales, we travel over to Ireland, first of all, which is a really tough start. You welcome England. Do you think the mindset will change a lot depending on the results of the first game, or do you think the same style of play would be there?
Massively, Brandon. I really think that. If, let's say, Wales were to beat Ireland and pull off, I'd probably, sorry to say, a shock result over in Dublin on day one, and England were to beat Scotland, even if it was just a narrow win, Scotland then go to Cardiff a bit bruised, where Wales go up on high spirits, like, all right, come on, boys, we're at this again. And I'd probably then expect Wales to go on and beat Scotland. If Scotland start off by beating England again on the opening game of the Six Nations, Wales lose to Ireland, I would fully expect Scotland to go to Cardiff and win. And then obviously if both teams win, you're going to have a really exciting game. And if both teams lose, you're going to have a backs to the wall type game, sort of similar to the one that they had in Murrayfield in 2017. where they both know that if they lose that game, their campaign would be over. So going into it, it's hard to tell. It's huge. I mean, I'm going to be at Scotland's first 3 games, so I'm going to get to see us get battered 3 times in a row, which I'm sure will be great. But yeah, I'm hoping that they can pull it out. That this will be our year. Surely it's got to come at some point.
I think that Scotland-France game, that's your 3rd game, could be one of the games of the tournament. Both teams love to throw the ball about. Those 2 back lines, Finn Russell, Untermack, Dupont, Ali Price, Duran van der Merwe, Damien Penaud. It's an insane list of players. Do you think that game could really be... I don't know. I feel like France are probably the pinnacle of attacking, flowing rugby in the world at the minute.
Yep.
Do you think that could be where Scotland really showcase what they're able to do?
Well, it is traditionally in the Six Nations. The Scotland-France game is usually the highest scoring fixture of all the games. Can't remember where I read that stat, but usually that's the highest scoring game in the Six Nations, Scotland versus France. Both of them, as you said, it's probably because of the style of rugby they like to play. They're both very attack-minded sides. They've both got some fantastic players with a lot of flair. In recent years, barring Scotland beating them in Paris, it's usually been the home team takes it. France usually win in Paris and Scotland usually win in Edinburgh. So, I mean, I've got France down to win the Six Nations this year, but France are France. They could come 5th. Yeah, and I'll say it there. Honestly, the top anyone in the top 5 teams could win it. The only thing I feel pretty confident in is on the last day, Ireland's going to be one of the teams competing for the title. I fully suspect Ireland to finish in the top 2. Who's going to be playing them on the final day on Super Saturday for it? Maybe more than one team. Remains to be seen. But yeah, no, come back to your question. The Scotland-France game, it's about the flair. And look, we've had the rub of the green against France the last couple of times we played them. Hopefully it continues, but who knows?
Next up then is 2 weeks after that, heading over to Italy to the Stadio Olimpico to take on Italy. Italy, naturally, I think everyone is expecting them to finish bottom of the table. I spoke to an England fan before and asked about how much rotation do you think there would be for that Italy game? Do you think that it depends on results, how much rotation we see, or do you think the plan would be from the start of the Six Nations, regardless of results, we are going to rotate, we're going to give players an opportunity? How do you think Gregor would approach this game?
It depends how the Six Nations have gone. Like, luckily, the Italy game is just after a rest, so he might field a slightly weaker team. But look, if Italy are going to snatch a win against a team of the Six Nations, it's going to be because somebody didn't take them seriously. I mean, they might not be the complete package, but Italy have got some really, really good players. Luca Biggie's fairly good. Garbisi's playing very well at the moment. Ione's playing very well. So they have got some good players. And I was saying this to a friend of mine, that if Italy are going to snatch a team, it's going to be, a team trying to rest a lot of good players, playing one too many youngsters, and they're going to get caught off guard. So Italy will know that, and they'll try to target every single game, because they know that they can't go on.
The final day, it is Ireland away at the Aviva, 4:45 kickoff. That game could potentially, there could be a lot on the line going into that game for both teams, really. Ireland probably were the most impressive of the teams in the autumn, I think. The way they destroyed Japan, they then obviously beat the All Blacks pretty comfortably. What kind of a challenge do you think they would pose?
Ireland seem to have our number at the moment. There's been a couple of times where on paper I've thought, maybe not last year, but some of the previous meetings where I thought, Scotland should really be winning this. And Ireland seem to constantly beat us. They tend to find out what part of our game goes really well and dismantle it. Last year, it was our lineouts. especially if you remember, I think in Murrayfield, Scotland struggled to win a single line out the entire match, and they just couldn't get a foothold into the game. Ireland are going to be a very, very tough team for everyone to beat this year. They are one of the teams that really could win it. I'd love to say that Scotland, I mean, even if they don't win it, I'd like to be there on Super Saturday where, Scotland's still in with a shout of taking it. I'd love to see it. And look, even if we do the same as last year, we get 3 wins out of 5. I think Ireland's one of the teams that Scotland really need to beat this year to get the monkey off their shoulder. They really, really have to beat Ireland to get rid of the hoodoo. They've done it with everyone else. They've not done it with Ireland yet.
Yeah. That'll be a fascinating game because Ireland, obviously, they changed their style of play in the autumn. I felt went a lot more attacking, maybe a bit more similar to Scotland. Just a couple more questions, really. First of all, what are your predictions for the Six Nations overall? How do you see the table? Where are you going to put everyone at?
Everyone. So I have... Do you want me to go from bottom to top or top to bottom?
Yeah, go bottom to top.
But well,
yeah, think about it. Don't even think about it.
So we got Italy. Italy, stone cold last. I struggle to see them getting a losing bonus point of someone. I'd love to see it. I have a general rule amongst my friends that Italy has everyone's second favorite team. I mean, unless they're playing the team that you support, you go for Italy. So I will be cheering for Italy in every game bar the Scotland game. Shocker. Get the thumbnail right there. Shock prediction. Dan says Italy 6th. After that, and this is really hard to say, and you wouldn't think it, I'm going to put last year's champions in at 5th place this year. I had them down 5th last year. On paper, I just think the other teams are stronger, but underestimate Wales at your own peril. This is the one that's probably going to upset a lot of people. In 4th place, I've gone for England.
Ooh, okay.
I think they're going to do better than they did last year. I think that just in recent years, Scotland have had the better of them. I don't see them beating France either, and I struggle to see them to beat Ireland. In 3rd place, I put Scotland in at 3rd. I think we'll finish in the top half this year, probably win another 3 games, lose 1 or 2. I think Scotland have an outside chance of winning it this year. I mean, having both France and England at home. For 2nd, it's been really hard. I've gone for Ireland. It's hard to look past France right now. The only thing that is going to, I think, that's going to stop France from winning the Six Nations is their own mentality. And that's something that no equation or any bookie can work out what's sitting in a player's mind on any given day. If France turn up and play the way they did against the All Blacks in the autumn, or they did against a lot of the other teams in the Six Nations last year, if they show up to their full potential, man for man, they're the strongest squad in the Six Nations. That they should win it.
So there we go. That's our preview for Scotland done and dusted. Make sure if you've enjoyed to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with everything going on over the Six Nations. It's going to be a busy period. And make sure to check out my socials, all linked down below. We release breaking news on there all the time. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you soon.